Hello and welcome to the 10th installment of Kalam Digest. I'm joined today on the 10th of October 2024 by my partner in crime, Sam called Samre. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Edgar.
So, Sam, the 10th of October, obviously, just earlier this week, we saw the 1 year anniversary, the bloody anniversary of this current crisis in the Middle East, what many scholars call a genocide in Gaza following the October 7 attack by Hamas, where war crimes were committed. It's been a year. Um, we'll talk about sort of our reflections about what's happened. But I think something that's quite central and that sort of speaks to Israel's failure and all this is that on the very day of the anniversary, on the 7th of October, just 3 days ago, Hamas, the organization which Israel has been working to destroy for the past year, managed to fire rockets at central Tel Aviv. Obviously, they were, intercepted by the Iron Dome, but just the capacity. How nuts is that?
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable. I was surprised. I mean, I usually don't believe all the propaganda that's coming out of Israel, of course, about how they are successful in everything and Hamas are beaten. But I would not think that they would have the capacity to, and specifically on this very day, to send rockets into central Tel Aviv. And contrary to what you said, actually, some of them hit. There were impacts in Tel Aviv. I think two or three people were injured. I mean, of course, it wasn't a big, it wasn't in terms of even military effect or even harm to civilians. It wasn't a big thing per se, but the fact that they managed to carry out that attack is hugely embarrassing to the Israeli government regime. Um, I mean, their whole argument for what they're doing in Gaza is that they are destroying the capability of Hamas to, not just to do certain things or whatever, but actually, like they're supposedly Hamas are destroyed by now. That's what they are saying. And the fact that they can do this is a huge embarrassment, and I think undermines the credibility of Israel, not only in the not only the government's credibility in the eyes of its citizens, but also Israel's credibility in the eyes of its allies. We're supposed to back this up, using these arguments. But of course, the response was, as one would have guessed, a new renewed all-out attack on northern Gaza, still ongoing and has since the 7th of October cost a couple of hundred civilian lives.
Yeah.
So we're just up for another round of the same thing, and Israel thinks this time Hamas will be destroyed. Let's just wait and see. We're not sure, but um, but yeah, it's a huge blow to the credibility of the regime. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe if this is our kind of anniversary episode, anniversary sounds way too much of a positive word,
I know, of course, but
to
I
describe.
think it's actually the word. I mean, we're both
Um,
native Swedish speakers. I do think that anniversary is what you would use for even a depressing or negative thing, though. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's why I said bloody anniversary. But I
yeah,
think we should mention that 42,000 confirmed deaths, 20,000, or no, sorry, 20, at least 20,000 missing. I think more than that.
yeah,
Um,
on that.
And the Lancet Medical Journal estimates that the number is closer to 186,000 deaths,
Yeah,
uh, directly or indirectly caused by this war. Um,
which would be
it,
10% almost of Gaza's total population, and if that's the
exactly,
case,
exactly.
those are still, of course, they're just projections and calculations. But the
Yeah,
Lancet is one of the, I mean, it is the
it's a
world's most
leading, yeah, one
credible
of the,
journal
yeah,
in its field, so
exactly.
it's not.
And yeah, and it's not I mean, it's not a pro-Palestinian outlet by any
No,
means.
of course not.
Uh,
No.
so I think, and of course, 90% of the population has been displaced
Yeah,
many of them several times displaced,
yeah,
highest number of journalists killed in any conflict, most amount of women and children killed in any conflict, in modern times.
yeah.
And so I think that it's like the fact that Israel still hasn't destroyed Hamas, whether you want that to happen or not, but that's the stated aim, right?
Yeah,
And they still haven't done it. And
yeah.
they're just intensifying their attacks on Gaza. I mean, how much can a people withstand?
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, we all know that the Israeli propaganda is really, really good at, exaggerating the efficiency of the Israeli army and how good they are at, surgical strikes and,
Yeah,
all that bullshit. It's not true. We all know that, but even I, who don't usually believe that, I'm surprised by their lack
yeah,
of success in their stated aim. I mean, if you look at Gaza, if you just look at the pictures and the reporting, and how can they not have been able to they've gone over the area just destroying everything in their way like many times now.
yeah,
How can Hamas have any military capabilities left? I'm surprised by that. Of
yeah,
course, there will always be fighters who manage to kind of, just disappear into the civilian population, dropping their uniforms, and that's always going to be the case. That was what I was thinking, is even if you destroy their capabilities now, leave, and after 2 months Hamas or something similar will be back. So that's always been, the problem with their
yeah,
strategy. But even I thought that by now Hamas wouldn't have any organized, way of doing like organized, coordinated attacks such as this one. I would think, perhaps at some place some guy picks up a gun, and kills a soldier or something. But
yeah,
this surprises me, and it's a huge failure. You know, but on the other hand, it's also the story of counterinsurgency
yeah,
campaign since Vietnam. It never works out for some reason. It looks
exactly.
impossible. How can they not win this?
Yeah.
But it just keeps happening. It keeps
Yeah.
happening in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Iraq, and you know,
Strange how one never learns. I mean, I wonder if
yeah,
it's hubris or if it's incompetence. That's a philosophical question for another
yeah,
podcast. But
for
um,
another Kalam Shorts
indeed,
on hubris.
on hubris, that's not a bad
Right.
episode. Okay, so let's speak a little bit about the other front in this war. Speaking of incompetence and sort of a failure,
Yeah.
despite Israel taking out most of the Hezbollah command structure and military leadership, and of course
Yeah.
the spiritual and political leader himself, Hassan Nasrallah. Hezbollah is still managing to launch rockets and is putting up fierce resistance in southern Lebanon around the border area towards the ground invasion.
Mm.
Um, Two civilian deaths have been confirmed now from Hezbollah rockets into northern Israel. And I believe these are the first confirmed cases of civilian deaths in since the 7th of October, right?
I'm not sure if it's since the 7th of October, for a very long time. I mean, and yeah, it's been at least for a couple of months, and
By
surely since,
rockets, that is,
the
yeah.
invasion started, or the all-out kind of war started a couple of
Yeah,
weeks ago. Um, and yeah, I mean, which is, I mean, I think it's interesting for several reasons. One is, of course, I mean, these are civilians being killed. Whatever you think about Israel or Hezbollah or whatever, it's unacceptable. This is a war crime. You're not allowed
yeah,
to bombard civilians. But on the other hand, it also says something about, again, it's a failure of Israeli,
yeah,
you know, capabilities. They intercept all the rockets. Nothing ever happens. They always fall in open areas. That's what they always say, but they can't deny the fact that civilians do die from these rockets, and
yeah,
it probably goes to show that the reason more people haven't died so far is not that they've been intercepting everything, but rather that the evacuation has been almost total from the areas where the most
yeah,
Hezbollah rockets
exactly. Yeah,
strike, which again puts pressure on the government to attack Hezbollah, because it basically goes to show, I mean, it shows the Israeli public that, okay, there's no way we'll be safe in the north unless Hezbollah is destroyed,
yeah,
which again, they will not succeed in doing that.
yeah.
So it kind of, for thinking people in Israel, I would say it's comes as a confirmation that it's either all out war forever, or just, evacuation
Yeah,
basically.
because I mean, Netanyahu's sort of message or speech to the Lebanese people that he did
Yeah.
the other day in English, I mean, it was a very, very ominous message, basically saying that, free yourself from Hezbollah, or we will do to you what we did in Gaza.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's it's insane that he gets away with, actually, I mean, he's threatening a sovereign nation with genocide. That's what he's
yeah,
doing, saying like, we
yeah,
will kill you all. We don't care. I mean,
yeah,
because he keeps saying that they're in a war with Hezbollah, but he's basically saying like, if you don't side with us, you will, if you don't actively throw out Hezbollah, we will just treat you as our all our enemies. And this is, if anyone needs, proof of intent when it comes to
Yeah.
genocide or and war crimes, of course, this is it. No, it's not the first time, but it just he keeps saying things that is like this would end you up with a life sentence in The Hague.
Yep.
If
Yep.
there was any logic to international
Inshallah,
politics.
one day.
Inshallah, one day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
It should
think,
be inshallah one day for everyone,
yeah,
regardless if you're on the side of Israel in some general sense, this guy has to, pay for his crimes,
yeah.
But if you look at that, it's yeah, I mean, so that's obviously he's trying to foment some kind of civil strife within Lebanon, which is, I don't think he will succeed. As we talked about before, there's a lot of people in Lebanon who hate Hezbollah, and who don't think they should be, allowed to have this kind of state within a state that they have been having since, yeah, for a couple of decades now. But I mean, if anything unites people, as also mentioned, as opposed to, apart from maybe 10-15% of explicitly fascist Christian groups, not even a majority within the Maronite community, I would say, would like side with Israel
No, no,
against
no, I don't
Hezbollah.
think
It's
so.
like
But
they would be like, we fucking hate Hezbollah, but this is a war on us. We
yeah,
will.
I think Israel will always be the enemy for most people in Lebanon,
Yeah,
but I think that internal strife can arise anyway. And
yeah, of course, of course.
I've been seeing like some small reports and some small videos of, desperate people, desperate Syrians, where there's been some kind of tension, and I'm not exactly
Yeah.
sure how that is playing out. But
Yeah, I mean, there
definitely,
is there's a widespread fear of that. I mean, I think we mentioned this earlier, but after the news of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah's death was reported, I think the Lebanese army deployed to like separate Shia and Christian neighborhoods because they were
yeah.
afraid that like Christians from Ashrafiyya would go around celebrating and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
exactly.
fascists. So
And that can
this,
happen, and these are unforeseen consequences that could arise because
yeah,
things are bubbling up, and I mean, economic collapse has been ongoing for so long, but now it's really good. I mean, how
yeah.
can how can a country sustain this?
I
So
mean, it's been insanely bad for just in peacetime. Lebanon has been in a
yeah, yeah,
constant state of crisis, at least since the harbor explosion in a couple of
yeah,
years ago, and before that. But lately it's been like, yeah, it's hard to fathom. You already have everything basically except for a war, and then you get a war on top of that.
exactly. Yeah,
Um, but so I mean, but it's also just, I mean, the level of lack of kind of, I mean, being taking responsibility somehow, for
yeah,
lives. It's I mean, I guess many of our listeners don't personally remember the Lebanese Civil War, but everyone kind of who knows anything about the region knows this is, an unparalleled catastrophe for a whole society and
yeah,
people. And, you know, basically saying, I'm going to try to bring that back if
exactly.
you don't do what I want,
That's essentially
It's
what he's
like,
saying.
what do you, how do you think anyone would
It's
ever
just
respect
one.
you as a statesman or anything?
Exactly. It's just one more step in I mean, what else could you call it other than a plan to set the region on fire?
Yeah, no, no, of course. I mean, I agree.
This is what's happening. And we're still waiting for the Israeli, probably joint Israeli-US response to Iran's latest
Yeah,
ballistic missile attack on Israel. So, I guess just have to hold our breaths, pray for the people of the region, and
yeah.
um, yeah, should we wrap it there, Sam?
I mean, I think we should say some final words on the maybe the Iran perspective, or Iran attack. I
Hmm.
mean, why hasn't it happened yet? Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
this When it comes to Iran, and they held out for a long time before they actually struck. I think the it seems even people who don't like Iran particularly, which might be us as well, not a friend of the pod, but would conclude that that was probably because they tried to reach some kind of deal in exchange for not attacking, not striking back, like,
Yeah,
um, but Israel, of course, I mean, they're not looking for a peace deal in any possible way here. So why don't they do that? I mean, they've been, you have Gallant was out just yesterday saying stuff like it will be, ma massive killing, unforeseen destruction, all these
yeah,
kinds of threatening phrases used against Iran. Uh, but that's not usually Israel's modus operandi. They usually just attack people. They don't walk around boasting about stuff they could be doing. So something is holding them back, and I mean, I know this might sound, you know, credulous, but I do kind of figure perhaps the US or the Biden administration has finally said no somehow, or said like,
Mhm.
if you do this, we will do, we will restrict you, because they're not just scared about a regional war. No one wants that except for Netanyahu and the Israeli regime, but I think the US current government is really scared of that, because oil prices will go up. They know, like,
Yeah,
all that, all the things that look bad for a US government will go up, and it's just
and the
heading into the
election is
election.
just a month away.
Exactly. And Biden and Kamala Harris know that Netanyahu explicitly wants Trump to win, and they know that he has a Trump card here, pun intended. But the fact that, he could basically just strike the oil fields and the nuclear establishment of Iran, provoke a regional war, and Trump would win.
Trouble one, yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, at least
On the sort of like, I will get a deal to end this
I
war.
will get it done.
I will get
Yeah.
it done.
And also just the
Well,
economy going poorly means
oh,
means that whoever is in power, loses support. So yeah.
yeah,
So we're not sure, but I mean, something is going on behind the scenes here. I'm pretty sure we will see a strike soon, but something
yeah,
weird is happening that we don't
yeah,
really know about, because it's actually kept secret.
yeah. Maybe we'll find out in 50 years when the documents are declassified.
Or in
But
2 days when they just go out, say what they did,
yeah, exactly.
what they were up
Well,
to. Yeah.
until then, it's all speculation. But thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Sam, for
Thank you, Edgar.
speaking with me for this 10th installment of Kalam Digest.